Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. I want to follow up a little bit on what Mr. Reyes and what Mr. Romer were talking about, exactly what the process is here for planning. You're planning a war against Al-Qaeda and terrorism. Mr. Black, you've said that that plan was put in writing, and we have access to review that, and we'll do that. I'm assuming it outlines the requirements that you feel that you need to do. You need to conduct this war effectively, outlining personnel requirements, resource requirements, and perhaps also a review of what you may or may not be able to do because of legal legal requirements or executive orders and those types of things. You then go through a process where, you know, the budget requests come to Congress. We pass a budget. Mr. Tennant then comes back and says, you know, Mr. Black, here's your resources. Here's what we've got for you. And then what happens at that point that you go back and you say to George and say, I can't do my job with this? You know, these are the risks that we are going to encounter.
The essence of counterterrorism is, or the problem of counterterrorism is, the harder you work,
Yep.
and the more effective you are, the more work you create for yourself. Right. So you're in a constant state of requiring more and more to keep up with the problem. And the better you are, you know, the more agents you have, the more reports you produce, the more people you have overseas, the more work is generated, the more success you have. So there is essentially inherent in this kind of business a constant state of a relationship between a subordinate and a superior. Me going to the director and say, you know, this is all we're doing, and we've created this opportunity over here, and then this has to be weighed not only first within the counterterrorism mission. You also have to think about things like Hezbollah and Palestinian Islamic Jihad and the whole rest of it. So you have that going on, and then that has to be, if it goes outside of that process, it's going to have to be coordinated with the director and the director of operations in terms of other specific areas that are of key interest. But again, counterterrorism was always the highest priority.
Yeah, but the question that I think that maybe Mr. Romer and I have is that at the end of the day, you know, we along with the President are the ones that determine exactly under what constraints you're going to be operating under. And with, you know, how do we get that information more clearly or more accurately, or perhaps in a more timely basis that says, you know, I'm sorry, you haven't resourced enough, or you haven't put in place the proper framework for us to get to do the job effectively. As a result of that, we're not going to be able to win this war on terrorism. We're fighting skirmishes. We're going to be, you know, we are very, very vulnerable, and we're open up to these kinds of risks.
I think communication, certainly between senior intelligence officers and members of the Oversight Committee, is key. I must say that, you know, in the last 3 years I have been before the Oversight Committee with I think, regularity. I think the Congressman has validated that. My request, my need for resources, the need at least, certainly was conveyed almost every time I came.
Mr. Watson, I'm a little concerned about what the planning process may be at the FBI, in that, you know, if there's not that plan in place as to, or is, you said that there's not a written plan in place.
A war plan?
Yeah.
I think that's well, I know that's an accurate statement. We have priorities, though, that we establish, and the number one priority was Al-Qaeda and UBL. That is clearly articulated.
It's a number one priority, but I don't know what, if that doesn't translate into specific allocations of resources, specific allocations of personnel, and those types of things. I mean, I don't know what it means, and if you've got a number one priority, do you have three number ones, and the war on terrorism became number 4, you know, the 4th number one priority?
It's very helpful for the counterterrorism program to be a national program, and say, let me see if I can explain this at the field level. What do you want Little Rock to do with limited counterterrorism resources?
Right.
And if they have somebody that's on, a group that's number 30 on the priority list of priority, it's a prioritization. And so those priorities are set by us, and we say this is what the priorities are. That also equates to what we request through the budget cycle and the planning process of what we need. What do we need to do to address resource-wise at headquarters for Al-Qaeda? We need more analysts. We need more agents. We need better technology. We need, the intelligence piece, reports writers, et cetera. I don't want to mislead anybody by saying we didn't understand that process. I thought the question was, do you have a 5-paragraph op order against Al-Qaeda and the war that was declared on them in '98? The answer with that was no, but did we understand what the threat was? Did we know what we were trying to do? Yes, it was. And it drove the budget request as part of the budget request for counterterrorism. It also, budget request included domestic terrorism issues. We had the Winter Olympics coming, for instance. We had the problem out in Seattle with the World Bank and IMF and, resources drains like that. So the aggregate budget was incorporated, all the numbers.
Yeah. Mr. Black, I'm sorry. I guess my time's up. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Witnesses, thank you.